Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Funny little article came out of The Bleeding Fool the other day, April 21st. And it's not something we don't know. It's just fascinating to hear it like officially and to see it in print and to see the mainstream media sort of have to acknowledge it. A few years ago, Star Wars fans kind of noticed that the last couple of movies weren't popular with fans. And this was showing in the merchandise. The merchandise wasn't selling. The figures were just sitting there, growing dust, not moving. And this affected later runs. They did less of the toys from the new movies. They went back to the older original trilogy characters and prequel characters instead, doing exclusive collector versions of them and the Black Label and stuff like that. So we knew this. People did videos on this ages ago. I did my own little video where I just did a quick scan of the Star Wars section in our local Big W, having been inspired by SC Reviews do it in Sydney. I did it in Melbourne. And all there was, I think at the time, was 2 Rey lightsabers. And that's it. That was it. There was nothing else. When The Rise of Skywalker came out, there was some merchandise, but there wasn't much. So finally, someone from The Bleeding Fool interviewed Chuck Terciera. Not sure how to say his name. I can't pronounce anything. He did a little interview and they asked a couple of little questions. Like, there's not a lot of merchandise from 7 and 8 out at the moment. Are we going to see something anytime soon? And he basically said, well, what we've seen, the sales on the products from 7 and 8 were not too strong. I know these movies as well as 9 have their fans, but those fans might say GG just never did the right products or characters or formats, and they may be correct. However, we can only go on what we know. So they're basically saying, well, the doors aren't closed. We could do some, but basically the ones that we did didn't sell, so we're not going to do more. And then later on he asks basically the same question. Are we going to see these characters that people are, how did he put it for? He basically implied people are wanting these characters. They're sought after. He said, as I mentioned before, we are working on some, but I have to ask, are you sure there's lots of demand for these very requested characters? The overall demand for bus and Star Wars products is not what it was 10 or even 5 years ago. And it's not just a GG issue either. The brand in general is not what it used to be. So, and these are lines that are pointed out, highlighted in the article. There's just no escaping it. They just weren't popular. And why weren't they popular? Because the writers, the creators, weren't working on creating characters that were fun, that were entertaining, that people would love, they would develop affection for. They were creating characters that fit their personal political agendas, which isn't always gonna fit with everyone. And that's in general, that's just always the case. And in this case, they already had an established fan base and they deliberately slapped it in the face. And then they went and called them a bunch of racists and homophobes and everything. And a few of these people are, I must admit, but they're the minority. They're the most triggered, but they're the minority. Most people are just fans who just want a good movie, who just want to enjoy and escape and then commemorate. And there's nothing for them to do that for. I mean, Holdo, who wants her? I mean, I must admit, for completionism, I might get the tiny little one eventually. Like, she'll be one of the last ones I ever get, because I sort of committed myself to getting one of each of the main characters from all the films back in the prequel and original Star Wars days. So I am going to get the sequel series as well eventually, maybe in some little packs where you get them all in one, so you don't have to pay as much and you don't have to put any effort into it. But people just don't care about these characters. They didn't how did they put it? There's not enough fans. Yeah, there was another quote, I've lost it, but basically, there's no affection for these pieces. People don't, they just don't have affection for these characters, the new characters, because the movies just, they're just not as good. You don't want to go back to them. You don't want to escape and live in those worlds like you did the original trilogy and even the prequel trilogy, which got trashed at the time, but not as much, and by comparison looks so much better now. And the toys are just a reflection of this. And the idea that anyone is surprised at this is so surprising to me. I mean, it's just, that's why this got my interest, because I just thought it was funny that this is news. We've seen this for ages, and the same goes with Star Trek. There hasn't been any Star Trek toys really for years. I don't want to say a decade, because maybe, but they did a few, and they screwed some of it up. Actually, they might have actually sold a few copies, but that's a whole other video. Sold a few versions, few toys, but you know, same problem. Basically, people don't care about the new characters. They didn't do as good a job creating, marketing, and now they wonder why they can't sell toys, they can't make money, and they blame the fans when it's the creators who aren't giving the fans what they want. They blame the fans. Oh, you don't want what we made. I love the old example of you go to McDonald's and they give you a gourmet meal, and you say, but I wanted a cheeseburger, and they say, that's better and you'll have it, you'll want it, you'll like it. No, I'm going to go somewhere else, or I'm just not going to eat out. And that's what's happened, basically. And that's someone else's example. They did it much better than me. But I'm rambling now at this point. I'm just glad I can talk. I kind of lost my voice for a few days, and I thought, oh, well, I won't be doing any YouTube videos for a while. But then nothing happened in the news anyway, so it was fine. But this happened, and I just thought, it's funny, I need to comment on this, because I was commenting on it back in the day when we knew this was happening, but now suddenly it's gotten to the point where the actual media seems to, and the actual makers have realised it and acknowledged it. And I just hope there's some change. I hope that they focus on the toys we want, the characters we want, and focus on making characters that we want, that people will buy. As bad as it was that Lucas was so focused on that back in the day, it was better than what we've got now. That's all I can say. But I'm going to go. I've talked too long. I usually do. But if you've stayed this long, feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already.